Akari, don't. Motoko, it's Tiger Claw business like I said. Sorry if I've been distracted. We're just busy. Give me some time, we can go get dinner or something later. He tried to play it off. No, it's okay, sorry for bugging you. Need anything? Want me to bring you guys food, or something? I offered. I had definitely stepped in it, and Akari's words rung in my head. 5 of her subordinates had died. I don't know her, and June was right. TC business. Not mine. June shook his head, and he must be feeling okay because a moment later he pulled an XXL package out of his jacket pocket and started tearing into it. Of course. I watched as June and Akari settled back onto the couch, both teenagers putting their heads together. And I should stay out of it. It wasn't my business. I didn't want to be involved in TC shit, but at the same time, this was eating at June, and I had never seen Akari so quiet, so downtrodden. I liked Akari. Even if she was a little cyber psycho, June liked her, and she liked him. I had a decision to make, and damn it, I was a busybody. Fuck it. Fill me in. You gonks definitely need help, I said as I flopped on the couch beside June to look over the tablet he had been glaring at. Motoko, no. This isn't your business. It is when my brother is involved. Besides, I'm not doing anything but hearing what is going on. I have skills you two don't like, net running and stuff. So hit me with what's going on. I'm not saying I lacked, but I can give you a new perspective. To my surprise, Akari continued to be oddly quiet. Like kinda of scary quiet as she stared at me. June sighed, rubbed his face. Akari's been given more and more responsibility by Fujimura-sama. To expand her skill set. He wants me to dechrome. But I'm useless at everything but killing. She suddenly adds in sounding oddly mellow for the woman that was usually so frantic. So Akari's been working as the boss for a drug business for Fujimura-sama. Disgusting, and I want to help a whole lot less. Go on. June turned towards Akari, who finally jerked a bit in a nod and spoke. It was a big deal. We had a lot of product. I had it stored away in the base, that should have been it. Sell it off the next day. In the middle of the night someone hit us. Stole the product, killed some of the guys. We don't know who it was. Fujimura-sama is not happy. Okay. I said, mostly to say something at the long pause after she got done. Any clues? Camera recordings? Were the bodies killed by a unique weapon? Any of your guys suddenly missing as an informant? We have very little. June cut in as Akari. Her face was mostly plastic, but she was looking pretty listless at every question. The cameras were hacked. Someone good enough that our netrunners that checked into it couldn't find anything. Our guys were all shot. With what? I prompted and got a blank look from my brother. Oh God. He's a himbo. They put him in charge of an investigation, but he had nothing but burrito fluff in between his ears. The bullets that killed your people. What caliber? Was it accurate shots, or spray? How many shots in total, casings? All of this is stuff that gives us information on who did it. June looked to Akari and she instantly put up her hands. Don't look at me. Fine. Fuck. It was low-caliber rounds. I think. 9mm? There were a lot of casings. I made the boys that were left clean them all up. It took a while. She said, speaking slow as she seemed to dredge up the memories. Okay. So spraying like that? Probably just off the street thugs. If they were professional you would have a lot less bullets, and a lot more accurate. Probably. I muttered. Did the guys who died shoot back? I shook it off. Where did it happen? When? I asked and June shook his head, going to deny me, when Akari just flicked the tablet over to me. See for yourself, little killer. Okay, so you lost some drugs. That's not the end of the world or anything. How much did you lose? You can probably steal it back from someone else if we really have to. Or. It was about 10 million eddies worth of glitter. Akari said dully, and I jerked up at the same time. June turned to Akari and glared at her. Holy shit. Glitter? That shit is awful. I instantly denied. Glitter was a newer drug on the streets. The kind of stuff that literally killed people who used it. Not just on overdose or something either. Weak constitutions would lead to your nervous system failing. Don't even get me started on the incredible addiction. Motoko. I said don't get involved in this for a reason. This isn't the sort of stuff. It's not the sort of shit you should be involved with. June said, reaching out and pressing his hands on my shoulders. Well, he wasn't wrong. Good riddance then. Hopefully whoever stole it kills themselves by using that poison. I said, shrugging off his hands, but more than willing to wash my hands of this. Only problem is that June boy put his neck out on the line with me to help. Harry said with a dull monotone, and I could practically feel my neck creak as I turned to look at June. What does she mean by putting your neck on the line? Not like that. He denied instantly. But we will both be punished for failing. I noted instantly that he was dodging what that punishment would actually be. Stop hiding it from me. What punishment? Yubitsume. June offered, with a shrug. Nothing to worry about. What the fuck is Yubitsume? I demanded, and June refused to answer. You cut a part of yourself off and offer it to your boss for fucking up. Harry offered, fluttering her fingers for a second. Some of that manic energy she always had before shining through. It's an old Yakuza thing originally, I think. At least that's how it was explained to me. It used to just be fingers, but well, Chrome makes that less of an issue now, yeah? So they tend to make it hurt. No one is cutting anything out of my brother. Of course not. You have to do it to yourself. Fuck that. I said instantly. I knew I hated gangs for a reason. I'm going to make some calls and get this solved. Fucking hell. Can't believe I am gonna be part of a drug deal. I feel gross just thinking about it. I hissed as I rose up to go make some calls. Motoko, just drop it. Harry and I will figure it out, or pay the consequences, and that'll be that. It's not a big deal. Just some time at a Ripper and I'll be fine. It's not fine. I yelled, actually losing my temper as I turned around from where I had been heading into my room to make a private call. It's fucked up. So I'm not going to let it happen. I care about you. You, stupid himbo. Get a brain. Gonk. Then I turned and stomped into my bedroom, closing the door behind me quietly, because I don't like slamming doors even when angry. Fuck. I took a breath and let it out, and then made a call. Motoko. How are you? I've been better, Hiromi. June is in some shit, but I had an idea. I want you to come over. I have something to run past you. I think I have an idea for how to start making some eddies. I'm going to call in Ichi and Malcolm too. If it's for June, I'm in. But eddies too? Now you have my attention. Section 9 was united in my room. All of us were unfortunately sitting on the floor. June and Harry had been confused when my tunes started appearing, but I hadn't explained anything to the two utter morons. Instead, I just hurried them over to my room and told them to wait until everyone was here. Now we were sitting cross-legged on the carpeted floor like we were in elementary school again. Okay. Now that everyone is here, let's talk about the situation. June agreed to help out Harry. Harry was apparently in charge of protecting a drug shipment. 10 million eddies worth of glitter. Fuck. Whoa. Malcolm and Ichi's eyes both widened in shock. It was Hiromi who frowned. That's a big shipment. Well, it's worth a lot, but isn't that big? 10 kilos? Give or take. She muttered, and I looked at her in surprise for a moment. I'm going to ignore how scary it is that you know that off the top of your head, Hiromi. Drugs are bad, okay? You'll tell me before you ever try any, right? It's important information for anyone. Why don't you know this? She demanded, pointing at me, but Ichi and Malcolm both looked like they didn't know as well, and were doing their best to hide that fact. Because I don't deal in drugs, Hiromi. Well, I didn't, I guess. Listen. If June and Harry don't find the shipment that was stolen, then they will be punished. Badly. I said seriously as I looked over my tunes. Alright. So we track down the thief. We can do that. I mean, your netrunning us backing you up. Should be easy enough. The thieves had a netrunner as well, and scrambled the cameras. So that might not be as easy, but I have to try anyway. Okay. One question. Ichi asked, cutting in. I'm all for helping your brother Motoko. Don't think this is against that, but you mentioned eddies. Okay, so here is the plan. I outlined the idea, and after a few moments Hiromi was practically buzzing with excitement. I'm in. I'm so in. This will look so good on my resume. I'm glad we can help your corpo dreams, Hiromi. I'm in too. If it works, that would help. A lot. Plus it'll make us useful. Ichi said and nodded. Don't look at me. I'm always down for this shit. Malcolm agreed. With all my chums on board, I threw my hand out into the middle. It took a moment to make me realize none of my chums had any culture. Put your hands out on top of mine, I explained, definitely not pouting at their lack of knowledge. But after they did it, I slammed my hand up, knocking everyone's hands into the air. Section 9. I called out happily. It didn't matter that my chums hadn't joined in. They would learn for next time. Motoko? Nope. Sorry, Section 9 is too busy, can't hear you. I called out as the four of us all ran out of the apartment to our cars past June. I did poke my head back into the apartment before we disappeared for good. Keep me apprised if you find anything. My team will be assisting in this investigation. I informed June and then ran before he could ask any questions. Sometimes you had to know when to run away so you couldn't be denied permission. We all traveled to the straight lane apartments, and then down into my net-running basement, which I was glad to notice hadn't had anyone try to sneak in. We set up once again, all of us at different terminals, although Ichi had actually stopped to get food and snacks before showing up, so my team wouldn't be starving while I was in the net. I finished hooking myself up and then laid back. A moment later I was in the net. The digital world opened up before me, but despite my continued annoyance at myself for a weak lobby, I quickly rushed into the city, traveling across the digital scape towards where the base Akari had been working out of had been. It was just down the street from where we lived. A bar of all things that Akari had been responsible for managing, as well as making sure drugs and other illegal things could be moved through it at will. Plus there was some money laundering, of course. I shook my head as I came upon the area, and did my usual trick. I looked for other cameras that would have some overwatch of the building. Even if a netrunner had been involved and scrambled the cameras on the bar, it wasn't like they would have time to go through every business in the area. That took time. At least the way I did it. As I checked out a pawn shop across the street, I accessed their camera records. They of course saved their recordings in case of theft, or just for blackmail or something. But as I checked the right time, the cameras had shut off. Damn it. It took time to hack into a camera network's recordings, but just turning them off? A few seconds. Okay, whoever did this shut off cameras in the area. I want everyone to get me a list of shops and locations in the area that might have been missed. Check up the buildings, or just further down the streets. I'll pull a copy here, so we know exactly when this camera was shut off. We'll handle it, Motoko. Hiromi chirped out an assurance, as I pulled the data and sent it off to my server. As I pulled out and started looking for another business on the street. We just needed a clue. 4 hours later we got one. 4 hours of breaking into every camera in the area, spreading out further and further, trying to find the smallest viewpoint. It was pure chance. Hey. This car. I think we have our target. Malcolm asked over the comm as I was breaking into a more secure server. It wasn't going super well. The security was tighter and I was getting close to giving it up when the message came through. I quickly looked over and pulled out entirely. Malcolm had been looking over camera records, basically just looking up and down the street and watching the time that the robbery took place. It was in the middle of Night City. There were cars going down the street constantly, but Malcolm had been checking them all apparently, looking for a hint that something wasn't right. An Archer Quartz drove up the street, away from the area. It just so happened that there was a tiger claw sticker on the back window. Recognizable. Check the timing. See if that car was just passing through. I called out. Already did. He took about 20 minutes to go across the street. Unless he stopped for a meal. The cameras. Do they shut off as the car gets close? Let me check. I pulled away from the server. Probably best to leave it alone with security this tight anyways. I didn't leave the net though. Just hanging around on the dingy digital street. Glowing eyes glaring out from an alleyway in the digital world, daring anyone gonk enough to mess with me. I think we have our man. Malcolm confirmed after a few minutes. All right. I'll start trailing it backwards. Maybe we can find out who it is. Give me a second, I have an idea. Malcolm called once again and I did. Malcolm had been good at this sort of thing. And I was right. Well, look at who we have here," he said, and he forwarded a video clip to me. A clip of the camera that was right across the street. One that had been shut off, but it had recorded for days before and after. The day before, a familiar car was parked out front. "Everyone find me a picture of who was in that car." On it, I heard a chorus from my team, as I pulled up that file and started searching as well. Haruka Adami. We had a picture of him leaving the shop that Akari owned. Okay. Now I needed to backtrace a car through Night City. Again. I was starting to get a bad feeling that this backtracing trick I had started. It was going to be a horrifically common occurrence in the future, wasn't it? We had lost the car a few blocks away, from both directions. Coming and going, the car had taken the same path, but both times it had just disappeared. But we already had solutions for that. Okay. I'm going to backtrace from the guy's home address now, I told the team as I started zooming across the city to find Haruka's home. The fact was, an amateur like this wouldn't have stayed hidden and secured from a netrunner his entire day. Most people don't think about hiding where they had been before the gig. I highly doubted a kid that stole from the TC would think to keep his entire day as a blackout. Doubt a netrunner good enough to have helped with this would have done it either. So Haruka in essence would be an open book. I stepped across the net, smiling as I looked up to the massive flood of data that was Mega Building H8. Thankfully I wouldn't need to go inside. I used a map of the real world and a bit of IP finagling to find a shop that would be facing the exit for the Mega Building's garage. I pulled the data after slipping into the shop's server and sent the file to my team. Pulling out, I started on the next. Time to broaden my net. An hour later I was getting frustrated. Have we found anything yet? No. Give us some time, Motoko. We don't know exactly when he left his home, you know? We have to basically search the whole day. And Ichi is searching after the drop-off to see if we can backtrack him when he gets home after the heist. Malcolm actually cut me off and I groaned as I was getting irritated at how long it was taking. I had gone into a dozen shops all around the Mega Building, going down each way of the street that connected to the Mega Building's garage just to already have the camera data prepared when we finally spotted him. Stupid Haruka. I pulled out of the servers and just stood out on the digital street again to take a break. I ended up staring at the high-end traffic that came above me. Most of it was normal computer requests. So it was just light, streaming through paths above. Basically just people accessing the shallows. But I was on the street below, the main level for netrunners. Here was the netrunner streets. A place a normal computer couldn't hope to reach. It was sort of peaceful. Not a lot of netrunners just walked around openly. Plus I was in a pretty quiet part of town. Most runners would take the shallows to their destination and then drop into the street level. So I wasn't surprised that I hadn't seen anyone. It felt a lot like I was in a private little world. I was also bored. No point in leaving the server. I didn't want to pull the camera records and start searching through them. I wasn't exactly in a private space. If I did that, someone might notice and wonder why I had all these camera recordings I was going through. So it was either pull back to the lobby and work there, or wait. Okay, fine. I zipped into the upper levels as a streak of light and then a moment later I was back in my empty lobby. First thing I did was access a bit of programming that I hadn't touched yet. The floor around me gained an actual texture. Lights appeared above my head first, just blobs of light, but with a bit of an adjustment I then had a roof, and lights attached to the roof with actual fixtures. I added walls, but with wide massive windows that opened up to the digital city below. I didn't alter the view like I could. I liked the digital city. I wanted it to feel like I was in the net. The idea came to me and I added streaming neon lights, as part of the aesthetic. Very Tron Motoko. You fucking nerd. I giggled, feeling myself relax a little as I created a circular couch that looked like fancy leather. A wide table along with a holographic TV in the middle, that I could display data on. In the end, I had a very futuristic meeting room. Despite the bright lights that flowed through the room, it was actually pretty retro. Almost like a mix between an old smoking room and a neon aesthetic. I liked it. I settled myself onto the couch and started pulling from the camera data. I needed to find Haruka, and here I could do it safely. I found him. Hiromi called out, sounding delighted as I quickly accessed her data ping and the screens that surrounded me all shifted into one. Damn, no wonder we didn't see him. He hadn't gone home the day before. Malcolm muttered, and I nodded. Timestamp was from a whole day before the heist. That made things complicated. Did we find out when he got back from the heist? I don't think he did. Ichi offered. I've checked from when we lost track of him to practically now, and I never see him there. Is the address something outdated? Ichi asks, something that had been shot around to the group a few times at this point. Maybe. Alright. I'll backtrace him. Malcolm, you're with me on that path. Ichi keeps searching for me. Hiromi, back up Ichi. Let's find this bastard. I heard affirmatives and we all got back to it. Okay, he left a full day before all of this had happened. Let's find where he went. It ended up being something obvious. It was something we probably should have considered. He went to work. He showed up on the cameras to Akari's little shop about 5 minutes after leaving, and then Malcolm and I both followed the timestamp up until he got back in his car and left. He went the other way down the street from where he had come. The same direction he had showed up during the heist. Malcolm and I followed, and this time it was easy. We already had the camera records since he was going down the same path he had taken coming to the heist. And where he had gone after. This time when he reached the points he had disappeared before we got him. This time he wasn't being careful. We had actually had the camera records we needed the whole time. Just not the right time. See, before he had disappeared on a rather long length of street that led into an industrial area. A long area with no cameras to track. We hadn't known if it was just a drop-off, or something else, but now we knew it wasn't just the drop-off. He parked on the side of the street. I guess he was hungry. Malcolm offered and I couldn't help but scoff. The man had parked on the side of the street instead of in the parking garage for that building? Because he wanted to stop and get some food. He was on camera and we were able to watch him enter the building. Information on that building? I'm looking right now. City Records has it. Hiromi started, but was cut off. It's a 6th Saint base. Ichi cut in. The gang tags are kind of a giveaway. He offered and I looked at the camera still and had to nod. Yeah, that was 6th Saint gang tags. I hadn't noticed them, because I didn't think of the graffiti in the city as anything but an eyesore for the most part. Okay. I think we have what we need. Hiromi. Are you ready? You bet. Fujimura won't know what hit him. Then I'll make the call to June. Let's get out of here. We were back at the apartment. I had called June ahead to make sure he was still home, and he was. Akari wasn't though. She had gone home, but at my request would meet us all at the apartment. But it wasn't just Akari that I had asked June to call in. As the four of us all formed up on the apartment door, I looked to Hiromi, who was practically bouncing at what she was plotting. She threw me a nod, and I returned it, opening the door to see the 3 tiger claws all waiting around the couch. Fujimura looked annoyed, but we would see if he kept that attitude when we got started. Luckily I wasn't the one responsible for talking this time. Hiromi sauntered in every ounce of corpo training on full display as she walked right up to the 3 and took a seat directly opposite of Fujimura. Just to be a little shit, I took a seat on her right, exactly where June was sitting for Fujimura. Ichi and Malcolm both took seats to her left. Thank you for coming. I hope I didn't keep you waiting? Hiromi offered and Fujimura's eyebrow flickered up before stilling. This wasn't what he expected at all. Not long. Excellent. We don't like causing any difficulty for our customers after all, Hiromi said, and then she reached out to her jacket pocket and pulled out something that she hadn't told me about. She stood and with 2 hands offered a small business card that she had pulled out. Fujimura gave it a look before taking it. Section 9. Asset Retrieval. Intelligence Gathering. Wetworks. Fujimura read off the card and I had a moment where everything spun a bit. Because that was fucking cool. Hiromi? You made business cards? That's so fucking preem. We heard about your missing shipment, and decided as a symbol of a potentially profitable relationship we would begin an investigation. We have discovered not only who stole from you, but where they took your shipment. Although we can't confirm that the shipment wasn't moved from that location. That would of course require another investigation if that is the case. I could see Harry perk up as the knowledge hit that her fuck-up had been basically taken care of. June was looking at the business card and shooting me looks, but I just kept my face calm and collected. Even if I really wanted to cheer and hug Hiromi. She was so cool. Like a little corpo. Just on my side. Interesting. I assume you have the evidence? Of course. Before I hand it over we should of course talk about payment. Section 9 is a premier investigative team. As far as I am aware, your own team was unable to complete the investigation despite being given days. We've only begun our investigation this morning and completed it, Hiromi said with a smile that reminded me of a shark. Payment. Fujimura spoke the word calmly and seemed to consider things. You will find our fees well worth the reliable and quick service, Hiromi added, throwing out probably the most generic corpo line I've ever heard. Fujimura looked to June then at Harry. I assume your investigation has led to a dead end? Yes, Fujimura-sama. We weren't able to narrow anything down, June added, but then he looked to us. But I also didn't realize my sister was going to try and extort us for petty cash, he said, looking irritated at me, but I quirked an eyebrow, daring him to keep complaining. But Hiromi beat me to it. Oh, don't be silly, June, there is nothing petty about our fee, Hiromi added with a brilliant smile that had me smirking along with her. The information and location are here, she said, pulling a shard out of her neck. On the drive over she had been hard at work putting together a report on what we had found. Apparently it was something she had learned how to do in class and had figured being professional about this would increase repeat business. Or at least that is what she said, and I had agreed with her, because Hiromi had been cackling like a madwoman the whole drive over. How much? Fujimura finally answered, seeming to realize he was going to need the information to find his drugs. Oh. We will give you a discount for first-time customers. 200,000. June's jaw dropped, and Fujimura's eyebrow rose up. This fee also doesn't cover a guarantee of the shipment still being at the location. This is where they move the assets after theft. Unless of course you desire us to take part in the recovery of your goods. That will be additional fees, Hiromi offered with a bright smile. I was pacing a bit back and forth. Motoko, relax. I should have gone with just in case, What if someone shot June? Fujimura didn't pay us, so we didn't go, Hiromi said, drawing my attention to how she was now fully reclined on my couch, an energy drink in her hand that she was sipping on all the while a smirk never left her face. Hiromi had in a short time made more money for Section 9 than anything we had done since the yacht heist. 200 grand split 4 ways was still a nice chunk of change. 50,000 eddies had already been added to my bank account. Ichi and Malcolm had disappeared soon after Fujimura had taken June and Harry to go claim their drugs back. But the boys had said they would be back. They were grabbing food and drinks for a party. Hiromi continued to look like the cat that caught the canary, but I was just nervous. I knew June would be okay. He was strong and stuff. Had a cool name and everything, but there might be a netrunner there. What if they hacked my himbo brother and made his Chrome shut down? Or just overheated him to death? Relax, Motoko. Hiromi called out again as I had resumed pacing, but in the end she was right. I had agreed not to go with them because Fujimura refused to pay us any further. He had in the end paid for the information, of course. Looking like he was annoyed with the whole situation, but in the end money had changed hands. He got his information, reviewed it and agreed it was actionable. You were pretty cool, Hiromi, I said, suddenly causing Hiromi to almost choke on her drink. What? The way you totally controlled the conversation. I wanted to scream when you pulled out the business card, When did you even make that? Oh, that old thing? I made it after we were doing the yacht heist. While I was selling the Chrome, I realized I needed to stop looking like some weird teenager off the street. I needed to be a young corporate woman on the job and people will take me more seriously. So I had a couple made, Hiromi said lackadaisically, trying to play it off. It was pretty cool. I think it worked on Fujimura. Yeah, his face was great. The door opened and Ichi and Malcolm came in, bags on their arms. Time to party, Malcolm called out, whooping as he toddled over and dropped the bags onto the table. Oh. Yes. I'm hungry. Gimme. Hiromi demanded, and Malcolm quickly grabbed a white to-go box and offered it up to her. Yes, O Corpo Overlord. Please accept this humble offering. Ha ha ha. That's right. Worship me. She laughed as she took her food and quickly dug in. Motoko? Huh? Oh yeah. I'm okay, Ichi, just nervous for June. It's dumb. I know he goes off on his own all the time, but like, this time because I set it up I'm nervous. Ichi nodded as he passed a box to me as well. Eat. Enjoy our success. June has his team with him. They'll be fine. I nodded as I settled onto the couch to eat. Nothing else to do, I guess. Maybe just one more glance at my message app on my agent to make sure he hasn't called for help. So what are you guys doing with your payday this time? Malcolm asked, his mouth full of noodles. I mean, I can definitely afford my car now. Allah. Make sure to use a more reliable trader and everything this time. Yes, Hiromi, I will bring you with me when I buy it. Please don't glare at me like that. Good. Of course we will back you up on your purchase. That kind of eddies changing hands require a good bit of muscle. And common sense. She added. I'm saving it all this time. Ichi added. I want to make sure I won't run into a problem with rent again for a long time. That's really smart. I said to Ichi, who smiled while Hiromi scowled. No, it isn't. Putting money into an account and not using it is the worst thing ever. You have to invest. Get some chrome or something. Maybe upgrade your truck. Money sitting in an account isn't doing anything for you to make more money. Still going to save it. Ichi said, shrugging at Hiromi's rant. Uck. This is why I'm the financial manager. She said, pointing at all of us and lingering on me with narrowed eyes. Don't look at me like that. I'm going to be spending all of it on working on some tech and stuff. Probably won't get any chrome with it, but that's on the table too. I said, slurping up a bit of noodles after. Acceptable. Glad to satisfy you, O Overlord. I mocked, using the boy's joke from before. Damn right. Long after the food was eaten and our little party had broken up into most of us just hanging out watching terrible TV. It was really bad and I feared Malcolm's taste. Why are we watching this again? Because I'm too full to want to get up and it's on. Ichi added. It's a good show. Malcolm argued and Hiromi made a little humming noise in agreement, her eyes never leaving the rather. This is awful. I grumbled, but didn't turn it off. I was full of noodles and didn't want to get up either. Then the door opened. June. I called out, sitting up instantly and seeing him enter. Akari right behind him, but no Fujimura in sight. He walked over and ruffled my hair, despite the fact he smelled like he had gotten into a fight. Well? I demanded and he huffed to laugh. No worries, little killer. Your info was spot on. Found most of the drugs at that site. They had been selling some of it, but we got most of it back. Cleared out the 6th Street punks that thought they could move in on our turf, and Fujimura pulled Haruka off the streets. Aghari added the last bit with a sinister happiness at the thought. Well, it was sort of his fault. Who was stupid enough to try and steal that much money from his own gang? So Fujimura was happy then? Hiromi asked, sitting up straight as well, and June looked a little hesitant to answer but his shoulders slumped. Oh, he wasn't happy. The cost of the info wasn't exactly cheap, June said, eyeing up both Hiromi and I. In response we both just smiled innocently, which earned a roll of his eyes. But we recovered a lot of the shipment. And Fujimura was accepting of the costs. He was grumbling about your little corpo friend the whole time. Aghari added, giggling as she flipped forward to land on the couch. The woman's energy seemed to have returned now that she wasn't on the hook for losing the shipment. Apparently he wasn't happy that you're going off on your own. I just shrugged. At least I'm still willing to work with him and the TC. I could have just left entirely. Or, you wouldn't do that, little killer. You fit in with us too well. Aghari offered, even as her leg arced up, and I was forced to roll off the couch to dodge her poking feet. Aghari, if you poke a hole in my new couch, you are paying for it, June called out from the kitchen. Ah, of course. June was celebrating as well. The burrito disappeared as he started biting into it. You ruin all my fun. I literally joined up with this to save your ass. June replied instantly and Akari actually stilled and nodded, without her usual manic energy. "Thanks June," she said to my surprise. "And Jones?" Yeah, sure, anytime Akari." "Good, I'll hold you to that." She chirped out, all craziness back on full display. "I take it all back." Too late. With June back home, I was able to better relax. We had done it. Section 9 had done something pretty cool. We had successfully completed a deal with one of the major gangs in Night City. Sure, we had easy access through Fujimura, but it was still something to be proud of. Hiromi had even offered our services in the future to Fujimura for work. It was possible Fujimura might take us up on that. The team eventually left that night. Everyone was tired since we had worked through the whole day tracking down Haruka, and the call of their bed was too much to resist. Yet, I just felt amped up. I wandered into my room, ignoring June and Akari still hanging out on the couch watching TV together. Akari was definitely being flirty, but June just looked happy that the stress of finding the thief was off his shoulders. I walked over to my desk, looking over all the junk I had. Okay, time to do some work. I pulled out my belt, grabbed my Lexington and holster and put it on the desk. I knew exactly what my next little project was going to be. I grabbed my 3D printer and fed it a bit of metal. Just needed a bit of measuring. I finished that and quickly sketched out the device I needed on the CAD program, and started the printer. That started, I went over to my toolbox and grabbed some bits and bobs. Screws mostly. Pulling the silencer up, I checked it again, remembering I was going to need some testing to make sure this version of the silencer would hold up. But I would do that after. The printer stopped running pretty soon after, and I pulled out the metal device. With a few deft movements, I drilled it into my holster. Then I slipped in the silencer. I locked into place, and I practiced pulling it from the little holder that was now attached to the Lexington holster. I had considered building or buying a new holster so I could keep the silencer attached, but that wasn't really needed. Most of the time, if I was going to be worried about stealth, I would have the advantage anyways. So I would just draw my Lexington, attach the silencer and be good to go. I smiled as I checked my alerts. 100 Tech XP gained. That was my secondary reward for finishing something new. I grabbed my tools. Okay. I needed another silencer for my rifle. Maybe put together an optic for it as well? That could be fun to play with. Regardless, it meant I had projects to mess with.